All right, diving in. Today, it's International Mother Language Day, and I have to say, you sent some really fascinating sources. That Wikipedia article, really in depth, ready to unpack it all.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's close to my heart. Language is just it's so central, to who we are, our cultures, and this day really puts a spotlight on that.
For sure. It's celebrated every year on February 21st, right? But I'll be honest, before I actually looked at the sources, I didn't really know much else.
Well, get ready. There's a lot to it. It's not, just a random date they picked. There's a powerful history there,
Yeah.
about the fight for linguistic and cultural rights.
Okay, so let's start there. What about the origins of the day? Where did it all begin?
So it all goes back to this thing called the Bengali language movement.
Hmm.
And it was in, well, what was then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. In 1948, the government, they declared Urdu as the only national language.
Oh, wow. Even though Bengali was like widely spoken there,
Yeah,
I can see how that would create tension, trying to just force one language on everyone like that.
yeah. And the people in East Pakistan, they weren't having it. They felt like, their identity was under attack. So they started protesting, demanding recognition for Bengali.
And this all leads up to the events of February 21st, 1952, right? Which is the date we now celebrate.
Yeah. Tragically, those protests, they turned violent. The police in Dhaka, they opened fire on the demonstrators. A lot of them were students, and while several were killed. It was a real turning point in the fight for linguistic rights, not just in Bangladesh, but, globally.
It's hard to believe that something so, I don't know, basic, like the right to speak your own language was met with that kind of violence. People were willing to, risk their lives, lose their lives for it.
It shows you how much language is tied to who we are.
Mm.
It's powerful. And there's this monument in Dhaka, the Shahid Minar, and it's a really powerful reminder of the sacrifice they made that day.
So Bangladeshis have been commemorating, February 21st as Language Movement Day ever since 52 then?
That's right. Yeah, it was hugely important for them long before it became internationally recognized. Then toward the end of the 1990s, two Bangladeshis living in Vancouver, Rafiqul Islam and Abdus Salam, they actually started a campaign to get the day recognized globally.
Wow, that's amazing how something that starts, grassroots like that can become a global movement. So what did they do exactly?
They wrote a letter
Ugh.
directly to Kofi Annan. He was the UN Secretary General at the time.
Wow. Bold move.
Their proposal was to make February 21st International Mother Language Day.
And that eventually led to like the official proclamation by UNESCO in 99.
Exactly. So it gained support in the Bangladesh parliament, and then the Bangladeshi government officially submitted it to UNESCO. And it's interesting to see how their efforts and the work of diplomats like Saeed Muazzam Ali really navigated, all the intricacies of the UN system.
Really shows the power of persistence and passion. So the first global observance was 2000 then.
Yep. And it really marked a shift, from a National Day of Remembrance to a worldwide celebration of linguistic diversity. And each year since then, International Mother Language Day, it's kind of evolved, focusing on a different theme.
You sent over a timeline that was from the Wikipedia article, and it highlights some of the key moments and how IMLD has evolved. Want to jump into that?
Absolutely. It really shows how our, I guess, understanding of language has grown, over time.
Okay, so starting with 1952, obviously, the Bengali language movement. 1955, the first language movement day in Bangladesh. Then the timeline goes to 2002, and it says that was when the focus shifted to endangered languages.
Right. And they had that great motto, in the galaxy of languages, every word is a star. It really emphasizes how important each and every language is.
And then 2004, the focus that year was on children's learning. And there was like a UNESCO exhibition that actually showcased children's exercise books from all around the world.
Yeah, it's a reminder that, childhood is so important for language development, and that your mother tongue really plays a big role in how kids learn and develop.
2005, it says they expanded the whole concept of language to include Braille and sign languages, recognizing, all the different forms communication can take.
Right, yeah. Linguistic diversity, it encompasses everything.
Yeah.
All those different ways we communicate, each one is valuable.
Then 2006, it was languages and cyberspace. Seems pretty relevant today.
Yeah. Ahead of its time. The internet's influence on language was just starting, and this theme, it recognized the potential for both, like preserving languages, but also, the potential dangers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess access to information and global communication, that could help preserve languages. But then at the same time, the internet could lead to like a few languages dominating. It's a two-sided coin.
Exactly. It's a conversation that's still going on, really. And then 2007, the focus was multilingual education, advocating for learning multiple languages, starting young.
Yeah. I've always been impressed by people who can just switch between languages so easily.
It's not just impressive. There's actually research that shows that being multilingual, it has cognitive benefits. Like it can actually make you better at problem solving and boost your mental flexibility overall. So encouraging multilingualism is not just about cultural understanding. It could make us, well, smarter.
Wow. I did not realize there was like actual science behind that. That's fascinating. And then the timeline goes on to mention 2008, which you mentioned earlier, was the UN's International Year of Languages.
Right, a whole year dedicated to raising awareness about language issues.
Yeah.
It really built on the momentum from International Mother Language Day.
It really seems like a real push to get a global movement going around this whole idea of linguistic diversity. What about some of the other themes from the following years?
Well, in 2010, the theme was, it was a bit of a mouthful, International Year for the Rapprochement of Cultures, emphasizing how language can bring people together and foster peace.
A rapprochement of cultures. So basically just improving relationships between different cultures.
Exactly. And language is like the key to that whole process.
Yeah.
Then in 2012, the focus was mother tongue instruction and inclusive education, really recognizing how important it is to educate a child in their first language, especially when they're young.
Yeah. I mean, trying to learn like complex stuff in a language you're still learning, it's got to be really difficult.
It can be a huge barrier. And that theme, it really stressed creating learning environments where everyone can, be included and thrive.
So have there been like specific examples of how these themes have actually been put into action?
Oh, for sure. A lot of countries have been working to develop materials and train teachers, to provide instruction in students' mother tongues, especially in areas with a lot of different linguistic communities.
That's great to hear. What about some of the themes, more recently?
Well, let's see. 2013, the theme was Books for Mother Tongue Education, highlighting, the need for resources in a child's native language.
Makes sense. I mean, they're so important for learning to read. If you don't have books you can understand, it makes it much harder to learn.
Exactly. And then 2014, the focus was Local Languages for Global Citizenship, Spotlight on Science. It kind of challenged the idea that local languages can't be used to talk about, complex scientific ideas.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like saying those languages have just as much potential to add to global knowledge as any other language.
Precisely. And then 2015, the theme that year was inclusion in and through education. Language counts. Reinforcing that, language is really at the center of creating inclusive and fair learning environments.
It seems like with a lot of these, there's a recurring theme about how important language is for, educational access and just fairness.
Yeah, definitely. Language is a basic human right, and access to education in your native language, it's really crucial for making sure everyone has the opportunity to learn and do well.
Okay. So we've seen how the focus of International Mother Language Day has changed over time. But what about the celebrations? How do people actually observe this day around the world?
That's a great question. And the answer is it's really diverse. Just like, the languages we're celebrating.
Well, I mean, it all started in Bangladesh, so I'm guessing it's a pretty big deal there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. In Bangladesh, International Mother Language Day, or it's called Shohi Dibosh there, which means Martyr Day. It's a national holiday. People gather at the Shahid Minar and its replicas, paying respects to the people who died in the language movement.
That must be, such a powerful and emotional experience.
Yeah, it really is. A day of remembrance, but also, a celebration of Bengali language and culture. They have cultural programs, literary competitions, and people often create these beautiful alpanas. They're like traditional Bengali folk art on the streets.
Sounds really vibrant. It's like a true expression of their cultural pride. What about other countries? Are there any particularly interesting ways that they celebrate?
Well, in Canada, where that initial proposal for International Mother Language Day came from, they've done a lot to promote multilingualism and celebrate, all the different languages that are spoken there.
So they're really carrying on that legacy of those two individuals who first brought that idea to the UN. What about a country like India? They have such incredible linguistic diversity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
India recognizes 22 scheduled languages officially in its constitution, and there are hundreds of other recognized languages spoken throughout the country.
Wow. That's incredible. I can only imagine the challenge of protecting and promoting, that many languages.
Yeah, it really shows the importance of International Mother Language Day
Uh,
in a place like India, preserving all that linguistic richness. It's so important for maintaining cultural heritage and making sure everyone feels included.
The Wikipedia article also mentions some awards that are connected to International Mother Language Day. Can you tell me a little about those?
Sure. One is the LinguaPax Prize. It's awarded every year by the LinguaPax Institute in Barcelona, Spain, and it recognizes individuals or organizations that have, really done something outstanding to preserve linguistic diversity, revitalize language communities, or promote multilingualism.
So, like acknowledging those who are really on the front lines of protecting and promoting languages.
Right. And then there's the Ekushey Heritage Award. It's presented annually by the Bangladesh Heritage and Ethnic Society of Alberta, Canada. It recognizes individuals who've made significant contributions to their communities, in things like education, social work, community service.
So, more about honoring those who are, making a real difference, often working to bridge cultural divides and promote inclusion.
That's a great way to put it. And then finally, there's the Ekushey Youth Award. It's given by the Mahmoud Jahid Memorial Foundation, also in Alberta, Canada. And this one specifically recognizes young people who are inspiring others through their work in, things like education, sports, youth activities, literature, community service.
It's great that they're highlighting the work of, young people, encouraging the next generation to really get involved with their heritage and make a positive impact.
Absolutely. It's all about empowering young people to be champions for their languages and cultures.
We've covered so much, from the historical roots of International Mother Language Day to its impact on the world and all the different ways we can all be part of supporting linguistic diversity. But I'd like to, bring it back to you, our listener.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, learning about the history and what it means, it's great, but it's what we do with that knowledge that really matters.
Exactly. What are some things, actions we can take in our own lives to support linguistic diversity and help preserve languages?
I mean, one thing you can do is learn a new language.
I've always thought about learning Spanish. It sounds so beautiful.
And it's, spoken by so many people around the world.
Mhm.
But it doesn't have to be, a widely spoken language. Even learning one that's less common, maybe one spoken by a smaller community near you, that can really help with preserving it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about it that way. It's like directly supporting a language's, vitality. Anything else? Are there other things we can do?
Oh, for sure. You can support language learning programs in your area.
Mhm.
Maybe volunteer at a language school or donate to organizations that are working to promote multilingual education.
And I could also see advocating for more language learning opportunities in schools, local schools.
Exactly. All those things they can really make a difference. And speaking of, supporting languages that are vulnerable, we can't forget about indigenous languages.
Right. We talked earlier about how many indigenous languages are in danger of disappearing. What can we do to help?
I think it starts with awareness. Learn about the indigenous languages that are spoken in your region.
Mm.
You could go to cultural events, support organizations that are working to revitalize those languages, even advocate for them to be included in education systems.
That's amazing how, something as simple as learning about a language can be a form of activism.
Yeah. And don't underestimate the power of the choices you make every day. Like think about the language you use online.
Oh, right. It goes back to what we were saying before about the internet being, it can be good or bad. It connects people across languages, but it could also lead to just a few dominating.
Exactly. If you make a conscious choice to engage with content in different languages online, you're kind of giving those voices more power,
Yeah.
You're helping to make the digital space more diverse.
Like you're casting a vote for linguistic diversity every time you click something. I like that. What else can we do, just in our everyday lives?
One of the simplest things, but really one of the most powerful, is just to talk about International Mother Language Day with your friends and family,
Just spreading awareness, getting people to think about these issues. Sometimes just starting a conversation can make a difference.
Absolutely. The more people who understand how important linguistic diversity is, the more likely we are to see real change.
This has been, wow, so insightful. So many things we can actually do.
It's not just about February 21st,
Uh-huh.
It's about about making a real effort to appreciate and support linguistic diversity every single day.
Before we wrap things up, I have one last thought for our listener. We've been talking about preserving languages that already exist, but what about, new languages, ones that are emerging, especially like in the digital age?
That's really interesting. I mean, we're seeing it all the time, right? With slang on the internet, new acronyms, even like unique dialects developing in online communities.
It makes you wonder if some of those online linguistic, innovations could actually become like distinct languages with their own, rules and structures. Is that even possible?
It really makes you think about how technology is shaping how language evolves.
Mm.
Is it is it speeding up the creation of new languages while at the same time putting some of the existing ones at risk?
And what makes something a language in this, digital world? Are emojis a language? What about code?
Those are the questions that linguists are trying to figure out right now.
Yeah.
It's a really fascinating time to be studying language because the lines are getting blurry and the possibilities are, well, endless.
It really makes you think about, what's next for language. Will we be communicating through like telepathy in 50 years? Or will we have, universal translators like implanted in our brains?
I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, but one thing I do know is that the future of language, it's probably going to be just as diverse and dynamic as its past.
And hopefully we'll keep celebrating that diversity, through things like International Mother Language Day and other initiatives that really champion the power of language in all its forms.
Absolutely. So, to our listener, I'll leave you with this. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the conversation going.
And if you want to learn more about International Mother Language Day, the history of the Bengali language movement, any of the stuff we've talked about, check out the links in that Wikipedia article you sent us. It's packed with information.
It really is. And don't just read about it. Think about it. Ask yourself what really stuck with you? What surprised you? What questions are you still thinking about?
Those are great questions to think about. And remember, even small things can make a difference. Maybe try learning a few phrases in a new language, support your local language school, or just, strike up a conversation with someone who speaks a different language.
Every step we take toward embracing linguistic diversity makes the world a richer, more vibrant place.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into International Mother Language Day.
That's been great.
It really has been a fascinating conversation. I feel like I've learned so much, and I hope our listener feels the same way. It's incredible, how much there is to language, something we use every day.
Yeah, definitely. A really enriching conversation. And I hope it's, made our listener curious to learn more, maybe even, discover a new language they want to learn.
Yeah, or maybe even be inspired to start their own project to promote linguistic diversity. Who knows what impact this conversation might have?
That would be amazing. Like we said, even small actions can be part of something much bigger.
So true. I think we've really covered, a lot about International Mother Language Day, from its beginnings to how it's impacting the world and all the ways we can all support linguistic diversity.
Yeah, I think we've given our listener a lot to think about.
I certainly hope so. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. And to our listener, keep those sources coming. We'll be back with another one soon.